Hello, here we have Trevor Steele, a famous Australian author, and today we'd like you to get familiar with one of his books published by Mirador Publishing. The title of the book is As Though Everything Depended on Me. And we will ask Trevor a few questions. First one, Trevor. Simple one. Why did you write this book?
Yes, I always wanted to write a book about the slide of Germany into Nazism, the end of the Weimar Republic. It's a much more dramatic story than most of us remember. Most people have forgotten, for example, that just before Hitler took over, it looked as though he was finished. His forces were just scattering to the winds. So I wanted to write that, but I wanted to write a novel, but so that it wouldn't look just like a history book. I chose as my main character a political journalist who deals every day with political and historical matters. And therefore I chose a man who is based on a couple of real characters, brilliant and courageous journalists against Hitler.
And this brilliant man, is he based on a real character?
Yes, it's based on a couple.
So he really lived at the time?
Yes, there was a man called Karl von Ossietzky and another one called Kurt Tucholsky, and my figure, Kurt Lenz, is somewhat of a mixture of the two.
Some people might say, wouldn't it have been more dramatic if you had chosen a Jewish person as your hero?
No.
Why not?
The Jews were obviously enemies of the Nazis. They couldn't be otherwise. The Nazis made them their enemies. I wanted to remind the world that there were lots of Germans who also opposed the Nazis. And so I think it's far more effective to say these are Germans who are standing up against the Nazis.
Okay. So could you please maybe explain the title? It's a bit of an odd title.
Okay. When the Nazis took over, it was obvious they were going to persecute, put in concentration camps, a lot of their enemies. And my figure, Kurt Lenz, was a very obvious enemy of the Nazis. Now, just as the Nazis took over, there was a crisis meeting of the people involved with the little weekly magazine that Kurt was the main editor of. They all discussed what they were going to do. And most of them said, look, we have to leave. We have to go to Prague or Paris or the Netherlands, wherever. We'll be very unsafe in Germany. And they assumed that Kurt would go also, but he said no. He said, look, if we leave, the Nazis will win for sure. If we stay here, there's a chance we'll be a thorn in their side. And I personally have to act as though everything depended on me. So the fate of the world depended on the actions of individuals.
And so he stayed, and can you tell us what actually happened to him?
Oh yes, he was arrested almost immediately and terribly, terribly tortured in concentration camps until, well, at least in my novel, he chooses a way of committing suicide without actually doing it himself. That was his way of putting an end to his suffering.
And what would you say was the relevance of this novel today in 2013?
Well, Kurt Lenz was a political journalist, and I think that political journalists are among the most valuable guardians of democracy. Because a dictatorship cannot tolerate an honest, courageous journalist. And think of the countries today like Russia, like China, even the United States to some extent. The governments there do not like journalists who tell the truth. And so the story of the journalist, as personified in Kurt Lenz, is an eternal story.
Well, Trevor, thank you very much. So if you're interested in history, definitely have a look at this book, As Though Everything Depended on Me. Thank you very much, Trevor.
And thank you, Shanda.